coming to you live from sunny Arizona. The Steve Rude Show is now live.
And welcome back to the Steve Rude Live Show on Saturdays at 1:30. I don't know what time it is in Norway or the Dominican Republic, but it's a time somewhere. Here it's 1:30, and here it's live. You'll notice I'm back with my sparkling drop of Schwappovessence. People think I'm endorsing this stuff. I don't endorse anything on here. This is art supplies, and I would want those for free for the rest of my life. But so far, no takers. So I'm going to set down the earbol and get on with today's show. You guys remember Zipatone? Of course you do. Well, nothing pisses me off more than when something goes away, somebody will say, well, they're not making it anymore. Well, find a way to make it. Find a way to make it again. So, fortunately, I've had some leftover zip, and it's coming in really handy here, as you can well see. So, can you see that? Look at Sunny Honey's dress right there, her evening dress. Now, you can either do that with your feathering in a brush or a pen, or you can put zip in there. And zip gives a great contrast to everything else in there. So, without it, I can't do it. It's just a great little thing to have, and I'm determined to find it. When I talk to old pros that used to use it all the time, I won't mention names, and they say, well, you can't get it anymore. Nothing, I went over that, right? I mean, find a way to either make it or find a way to make it. So I'm going to set that aside. This is page 20 right here. This is the latest page that I've done for the Nexus Return to Earth story. But I love putting on zip. And look at how effective it is. So there's a sneak for that page right there. What have I been up to in the recent days since last week? Ta-da! Sargen, a Sargen study in oil. Why do I do studies in oil? Because I need to keep myself fresh and alert to how to paint in oil. Otherwise, I will forget how to do it. So I have actually tons of these little studies like this. Tons and tons. Billions, in fact. And this keeps me from getting stale and just keeping my hand in it, which is really a big deal to me. So that was a lot of fun. It's still in progress, of course. Up for today. What are we doing today? Mona has requested to do the painter portrait. I guess a guy like Da Vinci beat me to it, but we're still going to give it our best shot. This is the watercolor so far. I didn't want to just start from nothing, so I decided to start with something. This is interesting right here. I'm going to show you this right here. This is one of the tricks I use to get a likeness. Let's set this down for a second here. Here's what I do. I trace over the whatever it is, wrong way, on Mylar, and I mark off the proportions, and I work from that. So it's not a literal tracing, it's just marking the proportions accurately on a piece of acetate, and then transferring it to a sheet of paper like that, because you can't see through the Mylar unless you put a white piece of paper behind it. And this is where I construct my face from this to this. So I look at this and then draw this. So we're going to be continuing with that later on here. Sketchbook stuff. Here's the stuff. I am having to do a lot of new stuff for this How to Draw Steve Rude Way book. I happen to know the artist, and I happen to know he's working hard at this. So we need some oriental faces right here. So this practice really helped. This is on newsprint right here in some kind of brown pencil, I guess. Is there anything else in there that's new? Yeah. Of course, there's our hand studies and our watercolor studies. Can you ever get enough of them? What do we have here? Oh, there's some Kirby stuff right here that I'm trying to figure out. This serves the same purpose as the Sargen oil painting study that you saw. Endless, endless, endless. Is there anything else in here that's kind of cool? Yeah, okay. Here's a copy of a Sargen watercolor. There's more hand studies with a couple of feet thrown in for good measure. Just put this away right here. It's time for community announcements. Wrong sheet. Community announcements. It says right there, so we know that's it. It's actually a community announcement. Nexus returns to Earth. Does everyone know about that by now? If you don't, for shame. But you're in luck. A special preview edition book will be launching on BackerKit September 9th. This includes a full script and all the black and white art done so far, which, as you know, because you're in the know now, up to page 20. Mark your calendars. Make sure you mark them. And sign up at steverude.com/RTE. I'll have to ask about RTE. Steve Rude's How to Draw book. We just got the first printed sample of our new How to Draw book. Stay tuned. We'll show you more of it soon. Let's make that really soon. This is the book right here that it's going to look like. Where's the cover? Here's the cover. Me and one of the other producers, Gino Ginelli, helped produce the cover right here. So that's what it's going to look like, guys. And this is what is it? Just a mock-up, yeah, of all the things that's going to be in here. Everything you could ever want to know about drawing and things you didn't want to learn about drawing because it's too hard. But I'm here to show you. There's Mona. This is very important. If you're going to do a how to draw book, make sure you show them how to draw and how I do it, how other people have done it, like the great Loomis books of all that we've used forever and ever. Head construction. This looks simple, of course it is, but in fact, this is one of the problems. This is one of the very first problems that people have with drawing. They don't know how to draw the overall shape. There's a circle in here, just like the Loomis method, and we work with that. But here's the progression: 1, 2, 3. Couldn't be more simple, right? And then there's my wise guy comments here that tell you everything that other people don't in that section here. Most of this is taken from the Nexus animated book, but a lot of it is brand new. And whatever's not brand new is going to be super brand new because I have to do a lot of new drawings for this thing right here, which is going to be fun. See, this is what everyone has to know before you go to this. Heads, heads, heads. I call this the essence. This is how I start out drawing all my heads. This is part of the construction, but it's capturing what they are in the simplest amount of lines possible. But the construction is all there. If you were to strip this one down and really strip it down, you'd get this right here, and then you'd go to this kind of head or this kind of head. There you go. And here's a super tight version of that. Pretonal no line. Okay. Well, I guess I wrote that. Makes sense, of course, because I wrote it. Upshot. There's a super tight version right there. Just tons and tons of stuff to entertain the whole family in the privacy of your own house. I redid her. She wasn't pretty enough. Captain Kirk, boy, you're definitely going to redo that. Okay, so there you go. That's the book right there that we're working on. At the same time, we're working on Nexus Return to Earth, which is what I make my livelihood with, whatever livelihood means. It is my life. Drawing is my life. Comics are the most fun I've ever done. They don't pay well. I guess we've gone into that in a few live streams before, but the satisfaction level is well worth the sacrifice one makes to have the best time of your life. Comments. Who wants to hear their comments? Well, I do. Oh, this guy really has it together here. Stuart Kenneth Moore. Cool shirt graphic. How could you not agree with that? I checked the ones here that I think are important to answer. If it just says, Steve, you're great, I just, thanks, move on. I love all the domestic action in this page. Sometimes it's more edifying than fighting the action scene. Okay, that's a big one with me. I used to, and still think in a lot of ways, that the most boring thing you can ever do in the hands of a lesser artist is to do fight scenes. Kirby never made a fight scene boring. And however, other many greats, John Romita in the early Spider-Man days never did a boring fight scene. But all these guys were equally adept at domestic scenes where you're just literally sitting on the couch or sitting at the table having coffee in the morning. That's where the real substance of the scene, how do I say this? I don't know how to say it, but it's very important to do that. And the more gripping you make the dialogue, the more gripping you make the scene, obviously it's going to be more exciting to read. But think about any scene in a movie you've seen where people are just talking. Now, a lot of people that are bad at what they do, like in movies or TV shows, I can see an entire season of a show, and the one that's the most boring is the one without the talking heads. They didn't pull it off. Can it be done? Yes. I saw a movie once where Ryan Reynolds was stuck in a coffin and buried alive. Don't tell me that wasn't an easy thing to write, because I found it very interesting. Virginia Salick, an old friend, beautiful girl. She goes, "Hi Steve, Roger teaches Saturday, but I'll see if he can leave Delafield early to see your live show." Well, I would think that's the most important thing in his life right now. Virginia is just, she's married to Roger, and Roger teaches karate, and Roger taught me karate. The most amazing thing happened, as I recall this moment here. Yamashita, the main guy that invented the style of karate that Roger Salick teaches, came to the class one time, and I was probably in my late 20s, maybe 30s, and he came around to an entire class of people, and he said something so flattering to me, I didn't know quite how to take it. I'll tell you why it was embarrassing in a second here, but he goes, you, Steve, have great potential. Well, I felt embarrassed because I knew that I wasn't going to spend my life doing karate. I was going to spend my life drawing at a drawing board doing comic books. So that's why I felt a little embarrassed and a little bad, because that's not what I wanted to do with my life, is to kick and punch. John Cook, my good friend John Cook, wrote in. You know what he does. He edits all the books and writes a lot of stuff for the Two Morals contingent. And he's talking about how we adapt poses from different sources, like a photo reference source or whatever. Now, I got to tell you, it's really important that you guys don't misunderstand this here. I've seen people take exact copies of poses from one of the Loomis books, and it looks awful. It exposes you as a rip-off artist, and it just makes you look really bad. If you're going to adapt, and I can't stand the phrase that was originally on this thumbnail here, this title card, which is "steal like an artist." I had that changed right away. There's nothing stealing about it. You adapt. You look at it. You what's that word? What do the Borg do? They assimilate. You assimilate the pose into your own thing. Don't copy it or rip it off. Use your own brain and extrapolate. That's another favorite word of mine right here. So I wanted to clear that up with you guys. Do not take a Neil Adams pose or a Kirby pose verbatim and use it in your book. That's just a cheap shot. But anyway, John writes, "Great idea about adapting poses. I collected hundreds of great frames like this over the decades when I want a commission done by an artist. And I ask her to plug in the characters that I want into the action pose that's in the frame I show them." Well, John's a very astute guy, let me tell you. So he knows what he's talking about, and he also knows what he wants. So, yeah, people get commissions all the time from artists that they like. They also pay a lot of money for these things. My rates are going up all the time, out of necessity. But yeah, this is a good back and forth here with a writer and an artist where he wants to do a commission of something for him. Moving on here. Creative specialists whatever that is. That's not a name. That's a thing.
That's their username.
That's their username? Well, keep using it. I like adapting poses for my panels as well. Adapting helps expand creative processes. That's kind of what I mean right there. It's either what artists do, and if you don't do this, I'll never understand how you can be an artist. You collect, and you what's the word I'm looking for? You collect and look at things that really inspire you. Like I've got my things that inspire me, whatever all those things may be. You're going to have your favorites, and you're going to know if you want to have a bunch of action figures sitting around your home, like I don't and never have. But so many people have that. If you need that to have around you, I'm an artist, so I want art. So books of art, and that's what these hundreds of books are all around. When you look at the shelves here, it's all art books or reference books, and there's so many books because now that I'm in my late 30s, I've had time to collect a lot of stuff. So that's why you see all these books here. Mr. Producer is going to do a little scan shot here of all the books on the shelves here, so you know exactly what the dude is talking about here. So with our Steadicam Junior, we're going to look around and see all this cool stuff of billions of books. I've even got my old National Geographics over there, which these are things people used to use all the time, but we have so many different sources now of things that kind of complete what the Geographics would do better than the National Geographics. But I still have them around. Maybe I'll dump them someday. I don't know. I just don't tend to use them like I used to. Mallet, who's that guy from Star Wars? Mandalorian, there you go. I happen to be very well read and a good speller and a good pronouncer, so I can do that. Foster Kirby Raymond. That's why Nexus reads well visually. Well, that's a great compliment. There's more to this than what appears to be in a simple sentence right here. Reading well is more deceptive to figure out and do than you think it is. A lot of guys do very detailed pages. Can you read it? Can you look at it and figure out what's going on? If you have to do something with which I call deciphering something, you're lagging behind trying to figure out what's going on in the story. The best artists I've ever seen are people that have an immediate read and just keep you flowing with the story. If you look at the John Romita Spider-Mans from '66, those are the perfect example of what I'm talking about. And John used to tell me that he complained that people wouldn't write in and tell him how great an artist he was, like Kirby or the other guys, Gene Colan and whatever, whomever. And then he figured out one day that people are so caught up in his story, the way he's told the story, that is complimenting him in a way that transcends even a cool art style. How cool is that? Superhero movies. Who would be your ideal casting for Nexus? I have no idea. He also mentions in the same sentence, I love inking with a brush. I haven't had a chance to do it in a while, but I love it. If you love it, do it. Okay. Is it for that? No, we have two more right here. This one you thought I was done, and I get back to Mona, you were wrong. It's really interesting that even a very experienced artist like moi, to go back and practice to keep their visual library fresh. Am I concluding that right? Yes, you're concluding that right. I wrote a letter to to Terry Austin one time. We met at one of the Phoenix conventions here, and we just had time for a few words. But I really wanted to meet him. He's this super guy from the early '70s, and his inking was very very popular and very. A lot of people wanted to copy it, so it was a great influence on other artists. But I mentioned to him in my letter, my follow-up letter to him, that I have to practice the same poses all the time. I must have done some with the Loomis poses 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 100 times over. And why is that? Why do I have to do the same things over and over? Because if I had the kind of brain that was super sharp and almost photographic, maybe I wouldn't have to do that. But I do. So it's part of my life to have to exploit that in by the use of sketchbooks. And I'm what am I up to? 40? Yeah, 40 sketchbooks here. Like they're like 150, 200 pages long, and you see every page is cluttered with stuff. I don't do this one page crap and move on like some of you guys do to show off. I don't. It's about learning. Okay, that's what a sketchbook is for. And if you want to do a crappy drawing in there, you need to give yourself permission to do that. All right. What else am I going to say about that? Yeah, it's just this constant reinforcement of things learned over and over and over again. It's not like you just see a picture and you instantly have it. It doesn't work anything like that. It's all about going back to karate class, repetition, same movement over and over, 100 times, 1,000 times, and having it become part of what they term nowadays muscle memory. Okay, so yes, all the time I'm always drawing the same things over and over. You name it, I've had to do it over. Last comment here: How does one get used to an upright page without feeling awkward when you try to draw right on? I always need to lay it flat on my desk. If you lay it flat on your desk, this is what you're looking at right here. Okay, you're looking at distortion. Okay. Does that look distorted reading it from that angle, that flat angle? Okay, does it make any difference when I go like this? Yeah, you can read it. I can read it. So, unless you're standing and you're looking down on this thing, which is kind of a position I would never want to be caught in, it's you need to slant it at a degree where you're looking at a right angle here. Speaking of right angles, let's get Mona up here. So we went through the community announcements. We overdid the comments on the comments that came in, and we showed you how to draw a book, the cover, the sketchbooks, the Nexus page with a zip-a-tone. If you guys know how to find it, let me know. It's not impossible, because I don't believe in can't or no or impossible. And the Sargen oil study. This is fun. I'm going to keep doing this. You can see I blocked in the head right there. But this is when you go into an oil painting, you're dealing with a lot of things. Oil paint is different than any other kind of paint. So you're dealing with a lot of things that are going to be impediments, and they're going to get in your way. So how do you control and surmount those impediments? One of my favorite words, surmount. Well, that's why I do these things. I'm talking about doing things over and over and over. In this case, I just grab something that I like and just copy it. And by copying that stuff, which is how I've learned my entire life, ever since the beginning. When I was 18 and moved down to Waukesha, Wisconsin, after being in high school way up north in Escanaba, Michigan, which I'm sure is a place everyone knows. My mom set me up in the basement. She got a big door, a big wooden door, and set it on some cinder blocks. And yes, it was flat. I couldn't raise it. And I would sit there figuring out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. This is right after graduation from high school, and I thought, how do I do this? Well, instinct told me what to do. You grab a bunch of your favorite comics, you open them up, you grab your typing paper, and you take your ebony pencils, which everyone used in art class in high school, and you just start drawing. And that's what I did. So that was back in 1975. 2025, there's no difference. I'm still doing it the same way, because that's the way I learn best. There's a better word than repetition. I don't know what that is. What's a better word, Mr. Producer, than repetition? It's just constant practice, okay? So while Mr. Producer is thinking about that.
I thought repetition was a good word. Just doing it over and over again.
Okay, I believe that I've been I've been allowed to continue the use of repetition here by Mr. Producer. Let's get the watercolor out here, okay? If you guys want to see me paint Mona, you got to hang in there. This is all transparent watercolor so far, and to work from Mona, I've got to see Mona. There's Mona. By God, there she is. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to look at Mona right here and try to draw from paint her. We're going to look at, this is cool. Look at the size of this Chinese brush right here. Isn't that great? This is gigantic brush right here. And I use this on the entire background here. Cool, huh? This is a General Wong's or whatever the hell, I don't know. Look at this, look at the different Chinese brushes that I have here. I always thought these were a joke. I mean, they're so limp, how can you possibly paint with them? I used to throw them out when friends gave them to me. I don't do that anymore. So I order from a guy named Henry Lee in California, and we've got a good thing going on here. He'll tell me if there's something I should maybe try, but honestly, the best brushes I've ever used are these, whatever these are, or bunny hair and wolf hair, I don't know, but these are the brushes that I've been using for a couple of years now, at least 4 or 5 years. And I stored in my little deal over there. So, oh, we don't want to forget that. And we don't want to forget this one right here. How much are we going to do with this one right here? How much? Let's see. Okay, well, I'm going to try it, all right? First thing I do when I watercolor is the same thing I do with everything that I've ever done in art. You don't start with trying to work for a finish right away. Some people do, fine, let them do that. I do it in steps. Because I think that learning something should be done in steps. And the simpler the first step is, the easier it will be to go on to the second step. So I use it as the foundation for everything I do. I think I'm gonna, let's try this right here. I'm gonna just do a very quick, I want the surface to be kind of wet, just a little bit. Maybe a lot of bit. And now I've got a soft surface to work into here, okay? Mona has a lot of, that's very dark. That's okay. Let's see how, if it spreads out too much, I'm gonna back off a little bit, okay? But otherwise, I'm not gonna back off. Now, if you're one of the astute out there and you're a practicing genius, you know that this is not direct light. This is soft light coming from probably what the artists like to brag about as north light. If you're a real artist, you're always going to talk about north light, because north light is a consistent source of light. It doesn't go, it's not like the sun that goes around and around, and in these windows here, it changes all the time because of the sun. This is not that. These brushes can go from the skinny things, like a pointed thing, to a broad thing. What am I using here? I'm using, I'm sure Mr. Producer is showing you right here. This is basically a black here, okay? It's a dark, dark, dark color. Now she's got the slightest bit of reflect coming up into her chin. This is a good thing to have around right here when I do this. Another thing is having never mind. I thought I was going to say something smart, but obviously that passed me by.
We are 30 minutes in.
Did you hear that, guys? 30 minutes in. Did you know that Mona has no eyebrows? Yeah, I think they shaved them off before they allowed her to model here. Now, soft edge, you take a very light version of what you got. See how light that is? A little bit of yellow, a little bit more yellow. Mode is big on yellow. Yellow. And you can go like that. Okay. And then, so you've got 3 tones there, dark, middle, lighter, and you just, with watercolor, it's very simple to get soft edges. You just go like that. Is it easy to use watercolor? Well, if it is, no one told me. I've been working with it for 40 freaking spickle-spitting years, and I'm just now starting to figure this crap out. Time to get some more of that yellow and do the third blending deal here. So yeah, see that's my chisel point right there for this. And if we're going to go super light, remember you control the density of the paint with water. That's why it's watercolor. It's colored water. So I would never guess you could control watercolor painting with a brush like this. It simply does not make sense. And the dude is big on common sense. Here's a brush that I like to use right here. This is a lifting brush right here. It's kind of stiff. And you can wipe these things with that. Watercolor is the only paint that dries darker. I mean lighter. I caught myself there just in time for saying something stupid. Okay. Mona wants something here. She wants me to make it very clear that she's got a lot of yellow. No, that's green. Rude. Sorry. Some people have asked me over the years, I don't get it as much because I don't attend conventions or anything, but how did I get the name The Dude? Well, look it up. It's a very good story that I've told a billion times, but it started way back when. The irony is that the Dude label has only gotten more popular in the last 5 billion years. So I've never gone out of style, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, how could I, right? When you're the dude, you stay the dude. By the way, this is Fabriano hot press. This is a fairly smooth kind of paper right here. I don't quite know why this is taken me so long to figure out. I do not know. If I knew, I could tell you, and then I could figure it out. But I can't. But I'm getting there. See that right there? You lay a tone down, and then you lay another tone, and if you want to be really cool, you add a third tone, which was very watered down, and you blend it according to what the needs of the face are, which is a north light kind of soft shadow kind of a thing here. There we go. We dissolved it. Let's keep going here. Let's get some. A lot of artists in YouTube, they go, well, I'm taking the alizarin here, and everyone uses the same colors, all right? Everyone. So color is not a big deal. You get a couple reds, a couple yellows, and you start painting. I heard a great quote from one of the YouTube channels the other day. What did it say? I will not remember it, but it was something as simple as to learn to paint, you just have to start painting. I don't think it gets much simpler than that. So you build up these gradations here of soft focus stuff. And you control everything by way of water. If I use a lot of paint with a little bit of water, you know what that's going to do. If I use a very wet amount of paint, it's obviously going to go on thinner. But this is how watercolorists work for the most part. Everyone works kind of the same. Some people are real show-offs and can just go right to the finish. Well, I don't think that's that hard, really. But sometimes when you're working on really delicate stuff, you need to carefully build up the right things here. That's not yellow enough. That's assuming that this reproduction here is correct. Why this painting is such a big deal to everyone, I really don't know. I mean, she smiles, well, that's good. That means she's happy to pose. Okay, here's that top lid. This is where I have to use the very sharp edge of the Chinese brush right here. She's got very deep eye socket things going on there. And of course, be very delicate when you do that, very delicate. So I've got my straight edge that's giving me that. I should give Mona blue eyes, but I think she'd slap me if I did that. When I do these eyes, I do not want the paint to spread. So this has to be a dry surface here. Sometimes when you're putting on lines that are really delicate, hold your breath. Not too long, you don't want to die. But it's a good way to do things that are very delicate. See, just tone layering after tone layering. The only reason I may be successful at this stuff is because I like to do it. Those who don't like to do it are in trouble. Space Ghost, you are in trouble. Name that episode. I give you a hint. It was Kia Luke from Kung Fu. He was the one doing the voice. He was a very popular voice actor for a long time. And wherever he is now, he's probably still doing it up there. I mean, you got to do something, right, while you're dead. So all we need now is just to do kind of the smile. And let's see how I do this right here. Mona is, I need darker than that. So let's get some black and some brown and mix it together right here. Just a dark, okay? A dark is a dark. You can mix green and brown or red and whatever, or just plain black. It's a dark. That's all it is, okay? It can be pretty much anything. How does that mouth go from Mona here? Okay. I'm looking over here. Okay, that's the bottom of the, all right. I could almost hear this lady laughing at me. I don't know what she's thinking, but she's saying, rude, it's been done. Give it up. But we endeavor to keep going here at the Rude Dude Studios. We do not give up on anything. It's simply not in our nature.
We are 40 minutes in.
40 minutes in? Are you guys hanging in there? Because if you're not, I'm going to send Bubba over. You know about Bubba. So you can see right here, I got a very light wash. They like to say wash of color here. A few modifications here. I'm going to do some lifting here. This is the same as erasing. There's really no difference. Anyway, do you guys want me to keep going with this right here? If you want to go mow the lawn or grab a sandwich, you go right ahead. But I'm going to stay here and work on whatever, how much I can before I leave you guys to the elements of the cold, cruel world. Yeah, all right, she's kind of got that smile going on there. Let's grab this stiff brush right here again, on to water it, and I need this to be lighter, so I'm just gonna erase. There, I erased. This kind of hard edge right here, don't sweat it. Because there are remedies for this stuff. You can always, on good paper, you can dissolve the paint again. You can always go in there and kind of do the lifting thing that every watercolorist uses. Let's dissolve this thing. It's got a bit of a hard edge on there. We don't want a hard edge. So, you don't remember the bra commercial, right? Lift and separate, lift and separate.
We got a couple comments saying, keep going, this is great, keep going.
All right, well, that's all it takes. You know, people always say, do you really listen to people that write in? Well, I'm going to keep going. So yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Keep going right here. So yeah, not everyone's staying in tune here, which is just a dire shame. It just cripples me with emotional stress. But for the guys that are hanging around, this is a good thing right here. Because I want you to see exactly how this is done. Oh, Flowhard. Flowhard here wants to see how to paint with watercolors. Okay, let's get a super light wash of yellow. I like the word yellow because the sillies used to say yellow all the time when they were sillies. When you put water over a dried area, only on good paper can you lift the paint up again. And you want to be careful you don't get too dark. Now, thankfully, this stuff does. What does it do? I forgot. It's good paper. It's Fabriano. Everyone uses arches, but just to be a maverick, I use something different here. Now, you saw what happened there, right? The paint bled into another tone. That's because the surface was wet. If you don't want that, you need to, you can't have the surface wet because it's going to do what colored water does. That's what it's going to do that every single time because it's obeying what it's supposed to do by way of some cosmic force yet unknown to me. Let's reinforce some of these darks here. When I'm looking at, what am I looking at? I'm looking at when the water's on there, it's got to reflect, and it's really hard to see it. If I go like this, it's going to change the angle of where it's reflecting off the light, which is fine with me. I put a little bit of orange in this one right here. I hope she's not offended. Look at that face. You tell you. This is okay. So let's put in some real darks. Okay, we worked in the face long enough. We need some complete black. Let's just start filling in these also important parts right here. When you do these, the more you know, the less you will just slap this on. There's a very deliberate, subtle, though it may be, contour of the face that's got to be really done carefully. And this comes in a little bit, and this goes up, and I'm going to just get some washy stuff in here. She's got a hairnet on for the love of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Now, how many of you guys knew that? Hairnet. Okay, here's the hairnet right here, okay? That's a little dark. We grab some water, and we pick up some of the color. And if it's really too dark, blot it. Okay, there you go. No fuss, no muss. Hairnet, jeez. Was she getting ready for a shower or something? So let's move this paint down to here. And I have to look at the big picture here to see how far this paint extends. Her hair is very flat against her skull, her head. And it's got to go up to a certain height, and it can't go any farther. That's what measuring does to your eye after a while. You have to be very deliberate about every little contour in her head. It's very easy to mess things up at this point. So I'm looking at here, right? I'm measuring from here to here, from here to here. So we got quite a bit of room to go yet here. But this is kind of like your map, your guideline, your map. And essentially, this is black with some other color seeping through. Boy, this is a very round kind of a thing here. Why am I thinking of Grandma Moses as I do this? I've done watercolors before on the Dude channel here. That does not extend that far. But I think because areas are so dark around here, you can just work into it like that, see? Remember that colors back then were not quite as the same amount of colors as we have now. And yet, how is it that people always remark that these paintings are the ones that everyone has to go back to and learn from? Why is that? Even with the limited things they have compared to what we have now? Well, for one thing, it tells me there's no excuse for not learning this stuff. She's got that pointed chin thing going on there. And it's a very small chin. Basically, she's chinless. Or what I call no neck, a no neck. There's been a lot of no necks in history. One of them is one of the baseball players I used to follow. He had no neck, so ergo, no neck. Scully from the Spickle Files, no neck. She's a no neck to me. Do I call her that? Yeah. I call her no neck. Now, I told you guys before that the mouth and the eyes are the things that express all the cool stuff here. The nose doesn't do a whole lot. It just kind of sits there and breathes air. It's a little too pronounced, so we bring in water to knock it down a little bit. Another thing you're allowed to do in art, because there's nothing you can't do, I'm just going to get this very light wash of yellow here and put it all over here. And what it's going to do is it's going to start to blend all the soft areas, all the areas in the head, to unify all the tones. So there won't be a lot of broken up here and there of different edges and all that kind of stuff. This has a graduation right here. I'm going to use one of my little painting tricks right there to do that. See, very soft edges. If you're outside, you will not get this kind of a look here. You'll get a different kind of look. One problem with doing it the way I'm doing it right here, unless this dries much darker, I don't have the broad lights that I have here. So I'm going to go in here and do what I always do right here. I lift. I just think of that bra commercial, and I lift and separate, and everything is going to go back to the way it needs to be.
We got a commenter asking, what Fabriano paper are you using?
It's cold press. Don't buy the sheets. The sheets are inferior to the rolls. Okay, like the big rolls of paper that I use to cut out. Now I know already that like this nose area, you see it's in a wet area. So if I try to get a solid shape in there without a lot of blending, it's not gonna do that. It's got to be dried first. So let's go around that area to places that it's not going to interfere with. You can see I'm going over areas that I supposedly already went over with. Well, that's part of the process. I remember when the Disney artists started to go back to watercolor as a background medium, they said, the secret to watercolor is to layer, layer, and layer. Guys, you know I'm not big on rules. There's a lot of, every time you think there's a rule you have to follow, somebody's going to come along who's really good and just blow the rule to hell.
We got another question in from a commenter named Maro. He says, hey Steve, I'm a beginner in comics and a huge fan of your work. Composition is one of the hardest things for me right now. How did you study composition when you were starting out, and how did you stay good at it?
Well, the only way you stay good at something is actually something I can go back to earlier in the live stream if you've been hanging around long enough. Repetition. One time there was a scene in Nexus, the very first issue, where I had a crowd of people. And I brought it in to show my teacher, Mr. Campen, Mr. Owen Campen, an illustrator from the New York years, who was one of the famous artist instructors behind the scenes, one of the hundreds of those types. He would grade papers and send them back to the student. And he says, well, Steve, you've got to take these figures right here and collect them in a mass. Almost like if you want to figure out the eye line, where you want to go from here. It's not just it's following a kind of a pattern, see? So your eye has an easy way of deciphering what's going on. If everything's all over the place, you're not going to know where to look. And these are very basic things that you learn through time, especially if you have a good teacher. And now that I'm doing these live streams, I'm obligated to pass these things on to you. By the way, we had some new Patreon members, didn't we? Did we ever mention that? Oh, well, pardon me here. New $25 Sunra member, Rodney Webb. Congratulations, Rodney. You're keeping the groceries coming here. New $5 Merck member, Paul Dubins. Another free member, Patrick. If you're wondering why you're not seeing the full Nexus page here, that's because we're keeping the full story script in inks over in our Patreon section here. It's a way of support the work and see everything that comes together. Obviously, right now folks can try it for a week, and there's a discount in the first month too. So if you're interested, you can check it out at patreon.com/Steve Rude. That's me. I never mentioned that last part. I never got around to it, but from what I've been able to figure out with my non-math mind, this is how people that devote their lives to YouTube stay financially foundational. So that's the way it works. When we basically have to go on and convince people to support us with cashola, greenbacks, clams, bread. And that's what I'm told, other than commissions that I do, because the Nexus stuff I do, I don't get paid for any of that. I get zero from that. All the money that we're able to raise from these Kickstarters and fundraisers and all that kind of stuff goes into the production of the room and paying of the book and paying people like the colorists and some of the people that have to proofread the stuff. That's where the bread goes to. The printer, the publishing the book, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to use USA printers now and not go overseas. We want the book to come back here. So let me collect my mind here. It's kind of scatterbrained right now after doing all this stuff. It's time for a sparkling drop of Schwab of Essence. You can say that with me if you want. Big I forgot what I was going to say. So never mind. Fill in the blanks as you feel free, guys. Okay, so I tell you what, I'm going to fill in that nose area because I think that's dry right now. I can pretty much see that it is. So it's not going to go running everywhere. And we're going to reinstate that nose. See the shape it makes there? Of course you do. I'm running out of dark colors right here. I need to get my black in there again. She thinks she can fool me with that smile, but she can't. All right, last stroke of the day right here, okay? And then you guys can go back to your video games or... does my audience even play video games? If we got the young guys, I would say it's a safe bet. It sounds like Hound Dog over there. Hound Dog here needs to be out there digging for more ground schools in the holes so her toenails aren't as quite as pronounced. Can you hear the flow hard? You at home, can you hear the flow hard? Hound Dog, what are you doing over there? Oh, well, as you can see, she's lying down right there. Okay, it's not going to be the last stroke. I want to get these eyes kind of... Oh, see, that's what happens right there. See, you don't want that. It bled into another area. So you pick it up. Now, if I make her eye come in a little bit, that stinks. The damn thing is wet still, all right? I'm not going to get the hair dryer out. Forget that crap. It makes a lot of noise and people don't like it. If you're going to use hair dryers in a video, speed it up 5 times. And then it's allowable. Don't worry, I'm going to get her. She's going to be mine. The doggone girl is mine, as Paul McCartney once said. So let me finish this on my own here, right here. But I already imparted a lot of stuff about how to do watercolor. And you can see, another important thing is to see where things go wrong based on the simple reaction of water. Water is water. Paint is paint. A brush is a brush. It's up to us to control the variables that go into a piece like this that I think is going to look really good when I get done with it, when I can really focus on it and not have wet areas bleeding all over the place. Those are the things that go into every painting, and the paper, of course. So you got the tools, and then you got your brain, okay, and they all work together. And the more practice you do, which is, as you know now, I practice all the time, mostly because it's just fun. If it was painful, I wouldn't do it. Believe me. If I want pain, I'll go and change tires for a living.
We got 3 no's on your video game question.
No's? Oh, really? Well, the nose knows, right? That's going to be it for this week, guys. I hope you hung in there long enough to see the various things that I got wrong here, because that's equally important. Equally important, don't forget. So next time you'll see this done. In the meantime, if I'm going to give out homework, which is really shows the difference between the men and the boys and the non-entities out there, I would say try to do a watercolor of Mona. That's what I've done here. You saw how I helped out the likeness with doing something like this with the Mylar over it. Aptly demonstrated a moment ago here. So remember, we have this book coming out here. Where's the cover? Here's the cover. How to draw the dude way. Let's just call it whatever it is. Its title's not important, but all my work is in here. And the point of this is to show you things that can accelerate your learning process. That's what all how-to books and instructional books need to be about. The better written they are, the better drawn they are, the smarter the text is, the more you're going to learn. It's very simple. That's it for this week. You guys want to meet me up next week? Okay, let's meet up next week. I'll see you then. That sparkling drop of Schweffervescence.